Hi everyone, it's Courtney. We're in a different place in my house today because I have a tutorial for you that several people requested after I posted my last video. I'm about to start a new project, and so I wanted to show you how I get my dowel rods all set up and ready when I'm ready to tackle a new start. So this is only a tutorial of how to make half of my scroll frame, I guess. My husband made the sidebars for the scroll frame, but I can do the dowel rods myself, so I'll show you how I do that part. One sec. Okay, I originally got this scroll frame from Joann Fabrics. It was pretty cheap. I want to say like 10 bucks or less. And the sidebars that my husband made for me are exactly the same design as this sort of thing. They're just a little bit more well made. So if you get one of these cheap scroll frames from Joann, you can use these sidebars. With the dowel rods that I'm about to show you how to make, you really only need one set of sidebars because you can switch out the dowels that have each of your projects on them, because obviously you can only stitch on one thing at a time. So if you don't want to do that much switching around, you can also get more sidebars. But I'm hoping that I will get my husband to describe to me how he made these so that I can tell you that as well. But this video is just going to be my system for the dowel rods. So somehow obtain sidebars before you do this part of the tutorial. Alright, so the new project that I'm going to start is Silver Creek's Sing a Sampler series. I went to my local needleworks shop and I asked them if they had these, and the first lady I talked to said no, but we can order them for you. They'll be $6 each. And I said yes, I'll take them all. And then when I was checking out, there was another lady ringing me up at the register. I was buying some of the threads for this, and she said, I could have sworn that I had those samplers here already. Let me go check for you. And she went and rustled around in the back and she pulled them up. So I actually got them on the same day. They didn't even have to order them for me. So I bought these at Stitches from the Heart here in San Antonio, Texas. And I also bought some of the threads that go with it. Here they are. This is only about half of the colors because I'm on a budget. So I'll get the other colors gradually as I go. But aren't they gorgeous? Gorgeous. So this is Sing a Sampler, and according to the back of the sampler, the design area is 383 stitches wide by 73 stitches high. So on 32 count fabric, which is what I'm going to use, that means that the design itself will be 24 inches wide and 4.5 inches high. So I bought some fabric for this. I actually, again, I went back to Stitches from the Heart actually a different time. I didn't get the fabric at the time I got the pattern, but a different time I went back looking specifically for fabric for this project. And I found some that I think was maybe by Picture This Plus. It's called Toasted Almond. It was a beautiful neutral, but the store didn't have enough of it for me to use. And so the lady who helped me at the store pulled out this fabric instead and suggested it, and I said, yes, that looks wonderful, I'll take it. And this fabric is called, I believe, Silvery Moon. It's 32 count fabric. The lady at the store said it was Jobelan. It was in with all the other Jobelan fabric in the store, but when I looked it up online later, I looked up Silvery Moon fabric, like on 1-2-3 Stitch, and it said it was made by Wishelt and that it's Lugana. And I've never worked on either Jobelan or Lugana before, so I don't know what this is just by feeling it, but maybe you can tell from looking. I don't know. But it's a light gray, and I thought it looked great with my color palette, you know, of at least what I've bought so far. So there they are. And so this is going to be my Sing a Sampler. Anyway, they didn't have enough of Toasted Almond. They only had a fat quarter, and I need 24 inches, no, I need 30 inches wide because I need 3 inches on each side for framing. And the fat quarter was 26 inches. so it would not have been enough. And so the lady said, oh, bummer, you're going to have to buy a yard, or a half a yard. And I said, you know, that was kind of what I was expecting anyway for my own calculations, so no problem. They had a half yard of Silvery Moon. But then another lady came out of the back. There are a bunch of ladies who seem to live at Stitches from the Heart. And she said, no, that's silly. You don't need a half a yard. You just need a long quarter. Don't get a fat quarter. Get a long quarter. Yeah, duh. So they cut me a long quarter of Silvery Moon. Here it is. And I believe it was actually 36 inches long, but I have trimmed it down to 30 because I only want my dowel rods. I don't want my dowel rods to need to be that long. So trimmed it down to 30. Right now this piece of fabric is one sec. It is like 30 and a half inches wide by 13 and a half inches high. So if I add 6 inches to both the length and width, length is 24 inches, so I need to add 6 and get 30. The width is 4.5 inches, so I add 6 and get 10.5. So this is more than enough. More than wide enough. So, yeah, but it doesn't matter to me to have extra height, or I guess, yeah, on this fabric, because it'll just roll up onto the scroll bars. No problem. But the width needs to be pretty exact because it's going to be long enough. This is about as long as my scroll bars can handle, or at least the ones that I have. I'll show you. So anyway, yes. So basically what I need to make, my fabric is 30 inches wide. My design is 24 inches wide. My fabric is 30 inches wide. I like to have another 6 inches, 3 on each side, on my scroll bars for the side bars to fit on and then my lap stand to fit on. So the dowel rods need to be 36 inches long. And you can buy those really easily. This is a 36-inch long dowel rod. I bought this at Hobby Lobby for $1.30. You can also get even longer ones at like Home Depot or Lowe's or any big box stores, but also the craft stores sell them. So this is 36 inch. It's 5/8 inches in diameter, and I chose that width in particular because the sidebars that my husband made me were made to fit a 5/8 inch dowel. So the ones that you can get at Joann Fabrics fit a 5/8 inch dowel. You can obviously customize that if you want to have thicker dowels. They will be less likely to bend. So I've had a little bit of trouble with dowels, with bent dowels before with the 5/8 inch, but I'm honestly not sure if that's because they bent under the tension of my project or if I bought ones that were bent to begin with. I didn't really pay attention the first couple times that I bought these. This time I did pay attention. I picked them out of the bin and I rolled them along the floor to make sure that they were actually straight. So hopefully, well, if one of these bends on Sing a Sampler or on my Mirabilia that I'm going to be starting soon, then I'll know that 5/8 inch is not enough, not thick enough to withstand the tension of the project. So anyway, so I'm going to make, my fabric is 30 inches, the dowel rod is 36. All I need to do now is attach the fabric to the dowel rod. And the way that I do that is I have a piece of fabric that goes in between. I actually am using 18 count Aida this time, and I'm gonna make a strip of 18 count Aida and I'm gonna attach it to this dowel, and then I'm gonna baste my actual project fabric onto that 18 count Aida. So I'm gonna show you how I do that. Okay, just so that you kind of know where we're going with this, this is one that I've made already. It is not yet attached to a dowel rod, but basically I'm gonna cut a piece of Aida into this long narrow shape that's gonna be 30 inches wide, or wide enough, at least as wide as my project fabric. And then however wide this is, I usually like it to be able to go at least once around the 5/8 inch dowel. So this one is 2.5 inches wide. So I'm going to take my big ass piece of 18 count Aida, although you can use any type of fabric that you want. I prefer to use Aida because it is so, the straight lines are so nicely delineated, makes it easier when I'm actually basting on my project fabric. I need my scissors. So I need 2 strips of Aida that are 30 inches wide and 2.5 inches tall. I'll probably give myself an extra 1/4 inch or so because the fabric gets smaller when I serge it. All right, those match pretty nicely. Okay, now we have to serge the edges because if left alone over time, even Aida, this will start to fray. And I really want these to actually be sturdy and able to do their job for years, many projects. So I'm gonna thread my machine. I usually choose a fun color. I have like an orange set, I have a purple set. The ones that are currently on my projects are like teal and pink, so I kind of pick a different color for each of my sets. So I'm gonna thread my machine and I'll get started. Okay, I've got my machine threaded with yellow thread that I will certainly never use for anything else. So that's gonna be a fun color. And I just wanted to show you that I have on my sewing machine all these different settings for different kinds of stitches. And this is not actually a serger. There are machines that exist specifically to do serging, and some sewing machines have an actual setting for serging. Mine doesn't, and so I kind of make do with the settings that I have on here already. So pretty much any basic sewing machine that you can get nowadays will have a zigzag stitch that looks like these. They come in different widths, and what I like to use for my serging is number 5. It's a pretty tight zigzag stitch. So what it's going to do is I'll put this stitch right along the outer edge of my fabric, and it will sort of wrap around the edge of the fabric and keep it from fraying. So yeah, so that's what I do. That's what I'm going to do. When you buy fabric from a local needlework store, a lot of times they will serge it for you with an actual serging machine, and that's pretty cool, and in my opinion, much nicer. The fabric comes out looking nicer, it's easier on the fabric, and it's definitely easier to do, and then you don't have to do it. So I'll show you how I do it. I always start with sewing forward and then backward and then forward again to sort of solidify, you know, the stitches where they are. And I just zip around the corners, and that's about it. So this is the reverse button on my sewing machine. Then I lift up the foot and just rotate my fabric like that. It's really hard to see. If I turn and do the stitch manually, you can see that the needle first goes in on the left into the Aida, then it pulls up, and it goes down on the right, which is outside of the Aida. I don't actually puncture the Aida on both stitches, only on the left one. So it goes in there and then outside, and that means it's sort of encasing the edge of the Aida in a continuous round stitch. So sew on because it's so stiff. The needle doesn't get jammed up at all. There's my cat. Say hi, baby. Here's my cat show and tell since I have the opportunity. This is Ahsoka. I think you've met her before, but if you haven't, this is her. She likes to see what I'm doing, but she doesn't really like to be held. So. Alrighty. Just snip off my loose threads. I had to rethread my sewing machine several times. I had like 5 tiny spools of yellow thread, and now I only have 1 spool. So the color yellow changes several times. Good thing this doesn't really matter. Ah! Really good thing. Got some greasy thread there. Sometimes when the thread gets stuck in the sewing machine, it gets grease on it. It's not very good. Okay. Yeah, so we're done with that guy now. And the product is 2 long strips of Aida. These are 30 inches. Let's see. When I do this serging this way, that is using the zigzag stitch and not an actual serge stitch, it pulls the fabric in a little bit. And so I lose some of my width and length. So let's make sure that the extra 1/4 inch I gave myself was enough. And it looks like it is. Looks like we're still more than 30 inches, just a little more than 30 inches wide on these. That's awesome. So now all I have to do is attach them to the dowel bars. And that's it. See if I can get this sticker off. Not that that really matters. It matters a little bit. I want to enjoy my equipment, not be annoyed by it. Stickers off. Alright, what you need for this part is a hammer and a stapler. This is not exactly, I don't know if you would call this a staple gun. I guess it's a staple gun. Yeah, but it's like it's a stapler that doesn't have a bottom part. You can just press it against something and press the handle on the staple. It gets driven in. So that's what I use. You can probably get this at any construction store, home improvement store. And I like to center my Aida on the dowel rod. So that means about 3 inches on either side for this one, I believe. Let's see. Really, the most important thing is just that they line up with each other. Yeah, that's about right. This is not an exact science. Let's see if I can do this. So you just press the staple gun down as hard as you can, and then squeeze the handle. Like that. See? And that's raised just a little bit, but the hammer I'll use to flatten it down. I do them about every 2 inches. Sometimes I'll tack it down though with just a few and then go back. Okay, there we go. I actually did really good this time with getting them mostly all the way in. But basically, I just hit them with a hammer to make sure they're flat against the dowel. Yeah. Sometimes if they go in sideways, when they flatten sideways. So that's not the greatest, but it'll still do the job. So that's one. Now I just basically line up the other one on the same lines, like this. This is what I mean when I say they need to be lined up with each other. Had to get some pliers to get the bad ones out. Okay, I ran out of staples and I had to go to Lowe's to get more, but I did, and now I'm finished. So I've got these stapled on. This one looks beautiful because the wood is soft enough that the staples went right in with no problem. This one I had much more trouble with, however. You can kind of see that not all of the staples are beautifully straight in there. This dowel, I guess the ones in the bin at Hobby Lobby are mixed types of wood. That's what Sam said. He said this wood is harder than this wood, and so the staples did not go in as easily. So I would recommend getting soft dowels, except I'm not sure if they might be more prone to bend easily, so you wouldn't want them to bend either. So, but look at all of the staples that I totally messed up and had to pull out of this dowel. It was a lot, but it's done now. And now it's just time to get my fabric onto the dowel rods. So as you can see, these strips of Ada are just about the perfect length to match my project fabric. I stitch in the well, which means when I have my dowels on my scroll frame, I roll them in this way so that the fabric goes underneath the dowel rods, and I stitch like that with the rods on top of the fabric. So I'll want my project fabric to roll up inside the dowels like this. So this is how I'm going to stitch it. I need a needle. Okay. I usually use white thread for this. I don't want to risk colored thread bleeding onto my fabric. I will get a length that is a little more than twice the length of my project fabric. Because I use the loop star method for this, just like I do for cross stitch. Although I'm not using cross stitch, embroidery floss. I'm just using regular thread. So I double my thread over, and thread the needle. And I do a loop start in my fabric. Doesn't matter exactly where, as long as you line up the ends. And then I slip my needle through the loop at the end of my thread, like that. So I've got it tacked on. Now as I go along this seam here, as I create this seam, I'm gonna baste the fabric on, which means basically just sew with really long stitches, really big stitches. I put a stitch about every 1.5 inches or so, usually. And as I go, I'll just make sure that I keep going in the same row on my project fabric and in the same row on the Aida, so that it ends up being completely straight, sewn on completely straight at the end. So. And that does it. So there it is. Now I just do the other side. Also, again, on the inside. All right. And that should do it. Okay, so that's pretty much the entire process I go through to create a set of dowel rods for each of my projects. I am ready to go on this one now. This is going to be first thing a sampler, and now I can just go ahead and put this on the sidebars and my lap stand and get started later today. So I hope that was a helpful tutorial for some of you. Let me know if you end up trying something like this. I would really be interested to hear about that. So until next time, happy stitching. I'll talk to you in the comments. Bye. I'm making a video.
Oh.
I'm gonna edit this part out though, because I have to rethread my machine.
Oh. You edit out the slow parts so that they just have 20 minutes of fast-paced action.
Fast-paced action. Yeah.
Like Captain Sparkles and PewDiePie, no downtime.
No downtime. Should I scream?
Well, that may not be your demographic.
Not my audience.
Maybe your demographic doesn't mind a little bit of downtime.
Yeah. Everything we do is very relaxing.
Uh-huh.
You done mowing the lawn?